So here's my box of failed TPU, and this is TPU for the Anycubic i3 Mega. After weeks and weeks of printing, I think I've got a good enough idea for you guys to help you guys out in case anybody else is struggling with TPU and the Anycubic i3 Mega. So I'll be showing you guys, I already made a video showing you guys a little piece that you can use, that you can get from Thingiverse. But I also want to talk about the hot end. Now, the Anycubic i3 Mega have these brass hot ends, and the problem with them is they get real hot, and if you don't have your bed leveled correctly and your this end goes against, against the actual bed, it will flatten the very tip of this really easy. Really easy. This right here is actually from my brand new hot end that I printed one good piece with, and then it looked like this. I bought this off Amazon, and I'll show you what they're supposed to look like compared to what this one looks like. Sorry, I have to hold them like this, but this one here is the new one from the bag, and this one here is the old one from my brand new hot end. So I ended up getting this to work because I stuck a little razor blade up in there and turned it up real hot and opened this up a little bit more and got a piece to print. And I actually liked the piece. If you open it too wide, it's going to print like that. Not a smooth side, like it's got a textured side to it. And it was printing these, and it worked. The Alex Flux that I used for the post-production stuff went right into all those little grooves, and it's holding really well. So actually this wasn't that bad of a piece, but if you don't want to have to use Alex Flux and you just want a 3D printed piece, this isn't going to work because this doesn't look good at all. So you can go in and open these up and get it to print, but not very good. Once the damage is done, it's done. Once the damage is done to the tip. And I'll show you another tip from a past one. You should see both of these past ones. You can see the tips are really bad. I would always get one to print good, and then after that, it would just, I thought it was clogging up and stuff, but it ended up being the hot end. So a real good idea for you guys that are printing TPU on the Anycubic i3 Mega is just to go to Amazon. It's not expensive, it's super cheap. You can get a whole bag of these hot ends. And I'm not sure if it's just because of the bed, because with this one, this one I actually leveled the bed before using it really good, and it printed an entire piece. And then printed, so I printed an entire piece that was beautiful, that looked really good, and then started printing this one that looked really good. You can see it looks really good, but then it got to the top and it just stopped working. And that's when I took it off and checked it, and the front end was all not right. And I had to go in and open that up just to get that piece printed. I opened that up, and there was just way too much being extruded, that I just ordered these, and now it's printing perfect. That is the new piece in there, and you can see just how good that looks there. I mean, that looks really good. So get you some heads. Clogs really easily. Now, even with those heads, even with these two heads, it would print PLA, and it would print PLA fine. I have no idea why, but TPU, it seems to be like it clogs really easily if your head is messed up. But both of these printed really good pieces of PLA. In fact, I'll show you one of the pieces in PLA that this one right here, the worst one, printed. So this entire piece was printed with that. And you can see that it's not bad at all. I mean, it looks really good. But for some reason, when it got to the TPU, it clogged up every single time. I was running these too hot just to get the TPU to come out of it, and the TPU would come out way too thin, and then it would fail. This whole box of just failures. After a while, it would just fail. It would go for a few hours and then fail. So that's one thing if you're printing TPU, and you can just see how, I mean, that it prints TPU really well when it prints TPU well. You know, this isn't even as good as the one that's printing now. This one's the one that's on that bent one. But so number one, get you some heads. If you accidentally damage one, then you want to put a new one on. And they're real easy to do. It's really, really easy to do. So that's basically, that's how it goes. So this just screws into the threads there. See that goes into the threads there. And then those threads, this is an old hot end that doesn't even work anymore, but there's those threads on the end that this part screws right into. And you can actually leave this all plugged in your Anycubic, and just kind of grip this with some pliers, and then grip that with some pliers, and then just twist, and it'll come right off. It's fairly easy to exchange those out. So that's tip number one. Get you some heads in case you damage one, because like I said, I know I damaged one on the bed from it not being level, but I don't know how the other one got damaged in that flat. I don't know if it's just because it's hot and it's brass. Brass becomes malleable whenever it's hotter. If it's just through time damaging more and more. I wish this was a good enough camera that you could see the holes in the end of these, because it'll show you just how big around the holes have gotten. And like I said, one of these was damaged by the bed. This one here is the one that stopped working midway through, but it's still a little bit flatter, and this one is the new one. So heads important. In fact, what I think I'm going to do, since it takes so long to print these, is I'm going to change out the head between every print, just because I want to get it done. And I've been working so long. You guys know that our subscribers on these ankle pieces, turning this into a TPU instead of PLA. I think I'm just going to switch out the head between every print until I get it done, and then I'm going to, just to be cautious, overly cautious, just to make sure I don't have any clogs or damages. The head that's on there looks really good right now, so that's good. So stay vigilant with the head on your hot end. Get you some extra ones just in case, so you don't get frustrated like me. Number two, get you that little piece there. Now I damaged the threads inside this piece, so I had to put this, I just put a mound of water weld on it, and it's like concrete holding it in there, so I couldn't, I'll show you guys on Thingiverse the actual thing, but it actually comes up with a box around, and it goes around, loops around that thing, and it's like a detachable piece. Print that off and put it in. I was using a little piece of tubing. I would put a little piece of tubing in there and it would work. I printed the entire Winter Soldier arm by doing it that way, and I didn't have any failures on that Winter Soldier arm. But because of everything, I went and printed this off, and it's so much, this is so much better. And you can see that there's retraction. You can keep your retraction on. Watch this, see if it does it again. And the tubing caused a bit of a problem sometimes. And a lot of people that print TPU tell you not to enable the retraction. But with this piece you can, and it's still, you get a really good print, a really good piece. So print this if you're using the Anycubic i3 Mega. It's a really good piece, and I'll put a link in the description for that. And then number 3, basically slow it down. Alright, so I use Cura for my slicer, and so I'm just going to show you this here. You want to slow it way down. I'll show you the typical settings that I typically use. So this is the bottom part of the foot here, and this will show you the huge difference. So I do my profile as normal, which is the 0.2 millimeters. Layer height, the layer height 0.2 millimeters. You can see the wall thickness 1.2, super thin. Infill I only do 3%. Printing temperature, well, usually do 220 on PLA. 60. See the print speeds, 50/50. All this here. And then 3% support density. No build plate adhesion. So that's my basic settings for PLA. And it's basic settings that gets it to print super quick. You can see here 13 hours and 38 minutes. Remember that, 13 hours and 38 minutes. So now we're going to print this in TPU, which I wouldn't use those settings because, for one, it's far too thin. Even using it, you can't use really any type of post-production stuff on it, and it rips real easy. And if you are using it for like something that you have to pull over your leg or over your arm or something that has to be tight, it's gonna bust after a certain period of time because it's far too thin. If you try to use like Alex Flex or something on it to post smooth it out and stuff, it becomes real wavy because it's just a real thin layer on the outside, so it sucks really bad. So I go up here and do the 1 millimeter. Okay, so we're just going to start from scratch. This is Cura's basic setup for the high profile. So it's 0.1 millimeter on the layer height, in case you're not using Cura. Shell 1.2. Infill density. I want to keep this relatively high, not as low as I typically go, but I usually do it at about 20% because with TPU, you want it to be, I mean, it's the infill is going to stick to the outside layer, so it's going to make it more solid. And this piece slips over my leg. There's a little bit of resistance and a little tough to pull it over, so you want it to be able to last. You don't want it to tear or anything like that. You just want it to feel like a solid piece. So I usually put 20% infill. That'll usually almost make it a solid piece, to be honest with you. Don't change any of that. Here, I do TPU at 230. A lot of people do it at 220, 225. If you're getting too many strands and such, you can bring the heat down. But I've found on the Anycubic i3 Mega, the more that I bring the heat down, the more chances you have of it clogging. 230 seems to be the right print temperature for me. At least mine, anyways. So build plate 60. Let's see the diameter. And now, here's the important part right here. This all says 50. And you're going to get a pretty decent print with 50. But you'll see the time pop up under here in a second. Hold on, I think that what happened was, here we go. It put I think it put a adhesion on, a skirt, and the skirt would go way around, making it too big. So I'll just turn it sideways like that. Anyways, this is where it's important. If you want a really good print, like the one that's on the Anycubic now that you guys seen, I bring this down to, well, we'll see what it looks like at 50. So you guys can see the time at 50. 1 day, 9 hours and 59 minutes. So that's at 50. So remember that 1 day, 9 hours. It's not going to change it too much, so it's worth it to go down to 30. It is a few extra hours, and it's completely worth it. Alright, 1 day, 16 hours and 43 minutes. And believe me, it's worth the extra 9 hours. It really is. So, and then you can basically just do whatever you want here. I think the only other thing left is you can enable, or no, not cooling. You can enable retraction. A lot of people say not to. I do, but a lot of people say not to, so that's completely up to you. And then with TPU, I usually put a brim. Just extra hold. That's all it's for. Just extra hold to the bed. So those are my settings for TPU. Drastically different than PLA, but it's worth every minute of it. Number 4 printing TPU is using Alex Flex for post-production. You can see just how smooth that piece is. It's still being worked on, and it's still got the bottom half to be put in, but it is looking really good, really smooth. And remember, guys, if you've seen the Nico Industries video, that's what I seen. That's how I got this idea and everything. He did experiments with different things. I'm going to give you a few little tips when it comes to Alex Flex and getting a smooth post-production of TPU that I don't think he mentioned in his. There are several different types of Alex Flex. Get this exact one right here. The one that says on the side, sandable, paintable, won't shrink or crack. It needs to say that on the side. Yellow top, in a bucket thing like this. This is what you need to get right here. Sand's really easy. You can sand with a high grit sandpaper. I've been sanding with 220. It goes real fast with 220. It goes way faster with 150. Or I do a 150 sandpaper real light, real fast, and then I take a 220 to make it even smoother. And that's just how I do it. But he says in his video that you can go higher than 220. Completely up to you. I just kind of experiment with sandpaper and stuff, but this is the way to go right here. Okay, there's an instructional video. I'll add the link in the description that Nico Industries put out, showing you how to apply it and stuff, so I'm not going to get into that. But this is what you need to use here. If you don't have that at your place, do not get this as a substitute. This isn't the correct stuff. So you want to make sure and get that one. There's a million different types of Alex Flex that you can get. Make sure that you're not getting anything like this in a tube. Make sure you get the exact Alex Flex. If your place doesn't have it, I got this from Ace Hardware. So Ace Hardware should have it, or any hardware store should have this stuff. Any big corporate hardware store, Sears, they should all have this. So you want to make sure that you put the primer on, put a primer on first. Certain primers stick to certain TPUs, so you may want to get you some test pieces. I know Nico uses primer filler, basic Rust-Oleum primer filler for his, and it worked perfect for his TPU. My TPU that I had, one of them, the primer filler cracked and stuff on it, and on the other one it didn't. So the Amazon, it didn't crack and stuff on, but the Yuyi TPU, the filler primer would crack and stuff on. I had to go get a Bondo filler primer, and the Bondo filler primer worked fabulously on it. So just kind of practice around with that stuff, but make sure that you get this right here. So, and number 5 on TPU, get real good with a soldering gun. I have yet to find an adhesive that glues pieces together. And if you're just making like armor that just goes over the outside or something, I'm sure, something like an RTV silicone adhesive or some type of flex adhesive would work famously and perfectly for it. This piece that I have slips over my leg, and it slips over my leg pretty tight, so any adhesive after a certain period of time would bust. So I got good with a soldering iron. And I basically do the same thing as welding. I just take a piece of TPU, big long strand of TPU. I take my soldering iron and I just apply it all the way around, pushing it down and in to the crack part, and then I go back by with the soldering iron and smooth it out. And if you get really good at it, you can make it like one big solid piece. And that's basically, this piece has no gluing or anything. It's all done with a soldering iron. And you can see down in there, I take a razor blade, and any pieces that stick up, I kind of just go in here and vigilantly take off the bigger bumps and stuff, and then the rest of it kind of smooths right out. So no problem with that. This is like one big piece, so it looks really good. And if you guys are interested in this, I can show you my method on how I put the pieces together. I just don't trust any glues when it comes to TPU. I just don't. And if you find an adhesive that's really strong, has a real strong bond and won't bust when pulling at it and stuff like that, then let me know. Throw me a shout out. Let me know what what your technique and stuff is. But for now, I think that this is just the strongest way to do it. And see down there at the black, remember at the very beginning I was talking to you about that one piece that I printed with the bigger hole in the nozzle? That bottom piece is it right there, so you can see just how textured that was. And I actually dig it. I actually liked it because that Alex Flex went into the cracks and stuff. It's a little happy accident, but I don't want all my pieces looking like that, so I changed the head out and stuff. But it worked really good. So the only problem was there were some holes, and you can see there that I took some TPU and filled it in, made it stronger, just so it wouldn't tear in any pieces. You see, I printed a TPU piece that was in the basic PLA wall size and stuff that was super thin, and did all the post-production and stuff to it, and then I just pulled on it and it kept tearing, and then I would fix that part by soldering it, and it wouldn't tear in that part, it would tear in a new part. So you don't want to do that thin, you have got to do it thicker. But anyways, my name is Bryce Michael RC. That's my video on TPU with the Anycubic i3 Mega. Hopefully this helps some of you guys out, and some of these tips will be good not only just for the i3 Mega, but for any TPU making, like the Alex Flex is good, post-production for any TPU. Soldering the pieces together is good for any TPU, not just the Anycubic i3 Mega. But make sure that you get you some heads for your hot end and print that piece. Those are two very important pieces, and then just make sure that your bed's level and not screwing up the head or anything like that. Call us in the gym. So, my name is Bryce Michael RC. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and we will see you guys later. Have a good one.